In today's fast-paced digital world, businesses and developers are more reliant than ever on cloud-native development. But with that comes a whole bunch of challenges, especially when it comes to managing infrastructure. I've met a lot of developers at conferences and meetups who just want to write code, not worry about infrastructure. But you know what? It's not just about getting things up and running. It's also about keeping them running smoothly, scaling them as needed, and making sure that everything is monitored properly. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. We're going to talk about infrastructure orchestration. Before we get started, make sure you check out the links in the description below. I'll be sharing some amazing open source tools that you can get started with and contribute to as well. Kestra, spoiler alert, links are in the description below. Amazing community. And we'll be doing a hands-on demo as well. And if you have any questions, leave those in the comment section below. And let's get started. Let's start by talking about the challenges that people face with infrastructure orchestration. Imagine you're trying to manage a bunch of moving parts in a big machine, and if one of the parts stopped working, the whole machine could break down. That's similar to what happens when you're managing infrastructure. There are so many processes and tasks that need to be coordinated, and if something goes wrong, it can create a ripple effect, causing bigger problems down the line. For example, one of the biggest challenges is complex workflow orchestration. So you've got multiple jobs that depend on each other, and managing those dependencies can become a nightmare. It's time consuming, prone to errors, and just downright frustrating. Then there's also scalability. When your workload increases, let's say you're doing a big product launch, or let's say you're launching something during Black Friday, holidays or something like that. Scaling your systems can become really difficult. It's like trying to expand a small factory into like a large one overnight. And you need more resources, you need more coordination, and you need more monitoring to make sure that everything scales smoothly. Speaking of monitoring, that's another big headache. You need to keep an eye on everything to make sure that it's working as expected. And if something goes wrong, touch wood, you need to know what it was. You need to know about it right away so that you can obviously fix it. And without proper monitoring, small issues can quickly escalate into major problems. Not just that, but cost as well. People talk to me about managing costs, reducing your cloud costs. You wouldn't know unless you know where your money is going. So proper monitoring, really, really important. Also, let's not forget about the inefficient use of developer time. Instead of focusing on creating new features or improving existing ones, developers often find themselves bogged down with maintaining infrastructure. And if you go to like a really nice restaurant and there's a very talented chef who is spending most of their time fixing like, I don't know, they're not cooking, but they're doing a lot of other stuff like fixing the kitchen plumbing or whatever. As developers, they want to focus on writing code. That was a bad analogy, but you get what I mean. So these challenges aren't just theoretical, they cause real problems for businesses. An example, like let's say you're a large e-commerce company that faced a major outage during a big event sale, like I mentioned, Black Friday. So your infrastructure couldn't scale fast enough to handle the sudden spike in traffic, leading to hours of downtime and millions or hundreds of thousands of loss in revenue. And yeah, what's the problem here? Poorly orchestrated workflows and insufficient monitoring. Or let's say you're a tech startup that was so focused on rolling out new features that you neglected the proper infrastructure management. And when you suddenly grew and your user base like exploded, the systems just couldn't keep up, resulting in slow service and frustrated users. And let me tell you, gaining that trust back from frustrated users is not an easy thing to do. So yeah, real challenges. And let's talk about the solution. So let's talk about some open source projects and let's talk about Kestra. All right, so this is where Kestra comes into play. Now, if you want to support their work, you can give them a quick star on GitHub. They're super close to, I think, 10,000 stars. So you can check out some good first issues to work on as well. And yeah, get your open source journey started. But yeah, pretty cool community. And now I'm not here trying to sell you Kestra, but I do want to highlight how it can address some of the challenges that we were discussing. And since it's open sourced, that's just a cherry on top. So before we get started with like the features and stuff, what even is Kestra? Well, in simple terms, it's a unified orchestration platform which is designed to simplify complex data pipelines and processes. Let's say you have a master coordinator that helps you manage all the moving parts of your infrastructure so that you can focus on innovation rather than getting bogged down in the nitty-gritty details. And one cool thing about Kestra is it's a visual workflow designer, which we'll take a look at in just a second in a hands-on demo. It's like having a blueprint of your entire operation laid out in front of you. So you can see how everything fits together, making it easier to spot potential issues and make adjustments as needed. Plus, it's not just for developers. Other team members can use it as well, which actually fosters better collaboration. Because I always say it's not just about tools, it's about the culture as well. And when it comes to scalability, Kestra was built with that in mind. It supports horizontal scaling, meaning that it can grow with your needs without losing performance. So whether you're running a small startup or a large enterprise, Kestra can handle the load. Now let's get back to that. Let's say the e-commerce company example that I mentioned earlier. If they had been using Kestra, they could have set up, there's this feature called real-time triggers that would automatically scale their infrastructure as the traffic increases. Now, this would have allowed them to handle that spike in traffic smoothly, avoiding the costly downtime that they have experienced. This is, or think about that tech startup story that I shared. If they had a nice monitoring setup, so for example, Kestra comes with comprehensive monitoring tools that allow you to be alerted about potential issues before they become a major problem, and you can address your issues proactively. You can and let's say you're a tech startup, your users would be happy and the developers can focus on building new features. Because this is a bit of a thing that I have seen as well. Like if it's a really big company, you do something wrong, your users, they go come back or whatever. But if you're a tech startup, you have to be really careful, because if people lose trust in you, it's very hard to gain trust back. Speaking of which, because I was mentioning about the use cases, I wanted to share about the documentation as well. And I think they have a Slack community as well. Scroll down to the bottom. Yeah, here you go. But I'll leave the links in the description below. Check it out. And yeah, let's take a look at some of the features. All right, so speaking of the features, let's start with declarative orchestration. So you can basically define your workflows and configurations in a clear and straightforward way, which makes automating your processes a lot more easier. Kestra is also designed with an API first approach, meaning you can programmatically access everything from managing your workflows to user administration. Now, this is great for developers who want to integrate Kestra with other tools or automate their processes even further. It's also language agnostic. So no matter what programming language you prefer, Kestra supports it. And this flexibility allows you to use the best tool for a dedicated job. And when we talk about infrastructure, a really popular tool is Terraform. So if you're already using Terraform, you can manage and deploy Kestra workflows directly within your existing environment. And this is essentially going to help you streamline your operations. And you can also deploy workflows with, as we'll be seeing in the demo, just a few clicks. And it's going to save you a lot of time. And we're going to do it in like a few minutes. It's super easy, super simple. And even if you get stuck somewhere, the community is there to help you out. And the documentation is pretty nice. And it's an open source community, so people are always there to help. But it's really straightforward, and you have some amazing resources as well. As I mentioned previously, Kestra also provides a dashboard where you can monitor all of your workflows and you look at the statuses at glance. And basically, you'll always know what's up, what's going on, so you can act quickly. And if something needs serious attention, or just have a good view of what's going on. But I've been speaking for a while. Let me show you a demo, and all of the things that I mentioned will come into picture. And you can check out the links in the description. Go check the website, check the GitHub documentation if you want to learn more. All right, so for the demo, let's start with something simple. Let's say we have an S3 bucket and I'm uploading a bunch of files in that bucket. I am the kind of guy who likes to be organized. So what I want to do is that, let's say we have a bunch of files that start with the name demo, and I upload those to S3. And what I want Kestra to do is that even though I'm uploading just files randomly, I want it to move all the files that I upload in the S3 bucket that start with the word demo to a particular folder. Let's say in the archive, /demo folder. So one folder archive, inside that archive folder, we have a demo folder. Just move all the files that start with the word demo in that whenever I upload a new file. So simple stuff. We're gonna do that, and you're gonna see how simple it is to use Kestra. So if you've been following the tutorials that I've been creating, you know I always recommend never skipping the fundamentals. And that's the analogy I go with whenever I'm creating a technical tutorial as well. There are 4 things I want to tell you about Kestra and how they have structured the project. Really good resources, the documentation. It's like really nice. And it's an open source project, so you know how important documentations are. Really amazing, like huge shout out to them. And I'm sure my views would be echoed with other people as well. Just really, I get really happy when I see good documentation, as you can probably tell. But on the screen, you can see first thing I'm going to talk about is flows. So as the documentation says, they are defined in a declarative YAML syntax to keep the orchestration code portable and language agnostic. As I mentioned, you know, it doesn't matter what language you're using, you can use Kestra. So there are 3 things, actually 4 things I want to tell you about. ID is just a unique name for the flow. Okay, namespace, you can say like, okay, this is a flow for a production environment, development environment, so on and so forth. And task, as the name suggests, it just lists the type of tasks that you can create. Now we'll be starting with a very simple task. I'll tell you more about it like in the demo, but basically move all the files that start with the name demo in a folder, in a folder of a folder, subfolder. So very simple, nice task, and you'll be able to see Kestra in action. And task wise, here you can see that, the type of task. And one thing I want to show you is the types of tasks that are supported. So here you go. Look at this type of supported task. I want you to check out this documentation after the tutorial so that you can, create more and more bigger projects, for example, right? Other thing I wanted to tell you, the 4th thing is triggers. So triggers are essentially, you tell when the task will be basically, when your flow will take place. So you're like every Monday at 10 a.m. Okay, you want it to do something. Okay, so for example, here you can see that there was a good example over here. Yeah, every Monday at 10 a.m. you want this trigger to start your flow every Monday at 10 a.m. Okay, what's this? Whole schedule. So yeah, so you can see it's all like, it may look big, but it's essentially the same thing. ID, namespace, any labels you want to add, sure, and then just the tasks. So every task has ID, type, and URI. ID, type, and a bunch of other things. ID, type, bunch of other things. And then triggers. So when do you want to have this flow execute? Simple, easy, and I like how they have a YouTube video with every like page as well. Very cool. A lot of work on it. I'm pretty sure it's Will. Yeah. Shout out to Will. Cool. So those are things I wanted to mention. Flows, very simple, and then it has actions, and then there are triggers based on when to do it. So in our case, it would be whenever you upload a file, you have to move the file. Very simple. So let's do that. All right, so here I have my terminal. I'm using Warp, by the way, the AI terminal. So you can check the links for that in the description as well. Here I'm going to run the Docker fetch command from the official Kestra website. So this is basically going to go ahead and create a Docker container for Kestra, and you can visit your local host on port 8080, where you will be able to see Kestra running. You can find this command on the website as well. And you can basically also verify whether the container is created or not using the Docker ps command. And after the container is running, you can basically go to your browser, localhost 8080, and you can see Kestra is up and running as well. All right, let's get this demo started. Here you can see the local dashboard on localhost 8080. You can check out the flows, execution, and logs and namespaces, blueprints, plugins, all the other things. Some nice documentation over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to need an S3 bucket. So here I have my console, and we're basically just, as I mentioned, the project is we upload files, and every file that starts with the demo name it's just gonna move that whenever I upload it. So I'm gonna create a simple flow. And here you can see that here's like a template, and on the right hand side now you can see it's visualizing our flow. So I mentioned the tasks that take place in order. So you'll be able to see as you add in more tasks, here's the flow that I've been creating. So you can see my ID and namespace as I showed you in the documentation, bunch of like a simple task and a trigger, like when does this task or this flow execute. So it says that wait for S3 bucket and the type, and I'm going to replace with the bucket name. So I need a bucket. I'm just going to create it. I'm going to go to S3 and just go to create bucket. See, it's very simple. Okay. It's just the documentation that I shared with you before. It's going to write a name, Kestra demo. So we just added an ID, we added actions and create bucket. Oh, error. Oh, you can't use capital. Okay. That looks good. That should done. So yeah, we added the ID, we added the task and the trigger. Like when does this flow execute? So just copy the name, put it over here in the bucket name and prefix. So file name prefix. What files do you want this trigger to be done for? So I have two files over here. Both start with demo. So I'm just gonna add the name demo over here. Let's go back, add demo. So all the files that start with demo. I want to do what? I want to move it to archive/demo. And then I just need some credentials over here. So US East 1, my region, my access key ID and my secret key ID. So I'm going to paste my credentials over here. Don't try to copy these. So I'm going to delete it after the video. These are just for demo purposes. And there you go. Now I'm just going to click on save. And even when so now you can see on the right hand side, you can see that it changed as well. Right now in executions, you can't see anything because I haven't really uploaded anything. So I'm going to go to my S3 bucket and I'm going to click on add files, upload both the files. These both start with demo, so it should be instantaneous. As I upload this, instantaneously, it should be able to just move it in a folder. Okay, the archive demo folder. Succeeded. I'm going to go back and it created an archive folder as you can see over here. Yep, click on it. It created a demo folder and moved my files in that. Simple. That's Kestra for you. And here you can see that 2 executions have taken place. You can move both of these files, like 2 execution took place for 2 files. You can see the logs and stuff as well. But you can move it to like 1 execution as well if you want. Okay, here I can check out my logs and I can just see the overview as well of the executions when it took place. I can go back to my flows and here I can see the S3 trigger one that I have created, a little bit of a dashboard. On the right hand side, you can see it's waiting and then when that trigger happens, it then executes the flow. So it's giving you a nice UI as well. And yeah, it's pretty much about it. Explore the dashboard. As you can see, it's pretty neat. And yeah, that's essentially what I wanted to show you. Such a quick demo, such a simple project. And now you can see, the files have been moved to my new folder. Lovely. Cool. All right, so that was about it. So I know managing infrastructure can be complex, especially as your business grows. Well, tools like Kestra can help simplify that process. And by automating workflows, providing comprehensive monitoring, and offering scalable solutions, I believe Kestra allows you to focus on what really matters, which is innovating and growing your business. So whether you're a small startup or a large enterprise, I think it might be worth considering as a part of your infrastructure strategy. And remember, the goal is to spend less time managing and more time creating. Also, there are like, we are talking about infrastructure in this video, but there are other aspects like security. There is cost management and all these other things. I would say if you can, a good practice is implementing these best practices from day 1 or day 0 and not be like, okay, when we reach that scale, that is when we'll consider it. That's why I mentioned whether you're a small startup or a big company, it's worth checking out Kestra. And I'd just like to end with saying that true innovation isn't just about building something new. It's also about orchestrating the complex so that the simple can thrive. So master your infrastructure and you will master your potential. If If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. All the resources can be found in the description. If you have any suggestions, feedback for future videos, also put those in the comment section below. And yeah, do check out Kestra, and it's an open source community, so go say hi, and I'll see you there. Have a good one. Bye.